Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're now on Red Circle, as well as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Also catch us on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel with plenty of other content from around South Florida sports. Don't know necessarily that you want to watch any of that right now, but, well, we'll see if the Dolphins win on Sunday. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also, 5reasonsports.com. Spell that one out for the latest takeaways from Brady Hawk, the latest columns from Mateo Mayorga, and others. And also check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We mention this one all the time. It's our friend Nelson. Reach out to him at carmstaffing.com. That's c-armandstaffing.com. The phone number is 561-891-9620. What do? They rent C-arm equipment on a short and long-term basis to hospitals, surgery centers, chiropractic offices, and pain management offices. They also offer cadaver lab courses. They can rent the C-arm equipment to an office and also send out an X-ray technologist to run the machine. Nelson's a huge Miami Heat fan, but also he can explain this stuff to you much better than I can. So go to the website, www.c-armandstaffing.com. That's www.c-armandstaffing.com. The phone number 561-891-9620. When you go there, make sure you fill out the form with all of your information. I promise you, Nelson or somebody on his team will get right back to you. Again, it's c-armandstaffing.com. And now, today's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Yikes. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust. It's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. We've got Brady Hawk. You can follow Brady Hawk 305. And also Alex Toledo, you can follow at Tropical Blanket. If you're looking for more of a national perspective, Brady and I just finished recording our latest Step Back podcast for Fanside. We went through what 12 stars, including Jimmy Butler, need to do in 2023 to kind of set themselves apart. So we went through Zion, Ja, Giannis, Tatum, Durant, Embiid, Mitchell, Jokic, Luka, and many others. So check that out on the Step Back podcast. You can find that wherever you can find 5 on the Floor. All right, we did not do a post-game show after the Heat's win against the Clippers, a big win on the road in the third game of this road trip. They're now 2-1 with the Laker game upcoming. We didn't mostly, we were all watching the game, but we did mostly because what was going on in the NFL game in Cincinnati, we just didn't feel right doing kind of a joyous stream that night. We decided to wait. We hope, obviously, everything is okay with that situation. Obviously, player cardiac arrest on the field is a very serious thing. But we're going to talk basketball today, and we're going to project forward a little bit as we look back at what's happened on this trip, because there have been some significant developments. We talk about a Miami Heat team that's gotten stale, but it doesn't mean that things can't be happening in the meantime. And so we're going to go through 3, and each of us are going to pick one. We haven't picked this in order. The one that we have not established as far as the biggest developments for the Heat on this trip is the fact that Jimmy Butler is back, which might be most important of all of these, but we've kind of hit that ad nauseum. Jimmy was a little rusty, I thought, in his return, but he'll shake that off. Doesn't seem to be having any significant after effects from the knee and back trouble that he's had lately. We're going to go through 3 players, though, and if you caught our episode on Kyle Lowry the other day, we touched on some of this with Tyler Herro and with Victor Oladipo, but we're going to deep dive on it more. 3 significant things have happened on this trip. One, Tyler Herro as a late game performer and as a playmaker continues to emerge. And that of course culminated with the shot against Utah. Bam Adebayo was tremendous against the Clippers. He always dominates the Clippers, but more so in this last game, just taking over the game late and doing it with Jimmy on the floor, which was something we talk about a lot on the podcast. And then the other thing is the Victor Oladipo thing seems to be real. It's not just the dunk. It's not just the defensive play, but they're counting on him as an offensive player too. He's doing a little bit of everything. He's filling up the box score and his legs look live. So I'm going to go last today. I'll take whichever one you guys don't want. I'll start with you, Alex. Which of the three developments to you is most significant for them going forward? Is it Bam, is it Herro, or is it Dipo?
I'm still of the mind, and this is really tough because all three you can make a great case. But if I had to pick one, I'm probably still going to go with Bam. I think the way that he has developed his confidence, and all these guys to different degrees have developed their confidence, is huge. But with Bam, you know that he's one of your two best players. He has looked like your best player for pretty much most of the season. Not that, we don't know that Jimmy could turn it up in the playoffs. We know that's going to happen. But just in general, Bam being able to figure things out, as Brady put it, as, being able to be a drop killer now, being able to attack the basket with more force. I just think in general, he's kind of putting it all together, and that's everything that we've been wanting to see for a couple of seasons now. And the fact that he's been doing it consistently throughout the season, relatively, right? Considering that the offense doesn't just run through him, and the offense isn't built to just give him points and for him to be a leading scorer. He's now tied with Tyler Herro as the leading scorer, right? So you're seeing the development, the arc that I think fans have been wanting him to see on. I think he's around 16 field goal attempts for the season, so pretty good, right? And he's still a dominant defender, still one of the best in the league at that. I think he's been an awesome rebounder for them, considering how small they've been. He's been really good on the offensive glass, which is obviously just lesser stuff. But from a scoring perspective, he is doing everything you want him to. And I think they're going to need that. They're going to need that a lot in the playoffs when, their offense gets into the mud, which we saw can still happen even when they have offensive games last night where it felt like everything was going right. They had a third quarter where they got outscored by 20, only had 4 made field goals. So when you go against the best defenses in the playoffs and you have quarters like that, stretches like that, I think everything that's happened with Bam is going to culminate in him being able to help you in those situations when things are not going so well. And it just, it's less of Bam deferring and try to get other guys going and more of him looking for his own shot more. And I think we've already seen him work through that. So I feel very confident about where he's going to be in the playoffs. And I think this regular season is kind of the biggest reason why. And I think it's only going to get better from here.
Brady, we talked about all the things we wanted to see him do this year. I never included 3-point shooting in the list because I never thought that was actually going to happen. I don't know that it will ever happen until later in his career. I don't know that it needs to happen. Which of the breakthroughs that he's made so far, because he is over that 15-shot threshold that he identified and Pat Riley identified. Alex is right. He's close to 16 right now. Which of the developments to you is most important?
I think it's the fact that he found his range where we talked about for so many years, can he find a go-to move? What was it going to be? And I think we could have all predicted, looking at the fact that he was never really truly comfortable in the post, that it was going to come up in some form of a face-up. And that's what he's been doing. He's just getting to that dotted line and he's just firing. So I think that's pretty important. I think in terms of, because I don't think this breakthrough has truly been made consistently, but what could be the most important is the fact that getting to the free throw line, because we can talk about hitting a threshold of aggressiveness and field goal attempts, but if he's getting to the line consistently, then it's wraps, because I just don't know how you guard that at that point. Like, it's just really tough. But looking specifically at this Clippers game, I think the fact that they open up the game, you mentioned playing with this starting lineup, the usual starting lineup when Jimmy's there. They start the game the first 2 possessions and they basically run a Herro Bam pick and roll. It's a pocket pass to Bam and it's a Bam jumper. Like, the fact that you get him going early in games continues to be the most important thing in his game and the Heat's offense. Like, if they can get him going early and get him in some type of rhythm, you just see the way that he continues to develop throughout the game. And then it gets to the point where he had that big time run in this game and they just kept getting him the ball like over and over. And the funny thing is, the 3 guys that you mentioned before on the headliners, the 3 guys we're discussing is Bam, Tyler, and Dipo. Those are the 2 guys that kept getting Bam the ball. Like, Tyler and Dipo just continue to feed him when he's hot. And I think that's kind of one of the crucial aspects here when you look at these 3 guys, when you put it in the context of all 3. But yeah, it's definitely Bam just being able to, I guess, get to the free throw line consistently, find his go-to shot, and get him going early in games.
And even when they don't go to him, he's finding it himself. We're looking at like 2 or 3 putbacks a game, especially in clutch situations. He's just going over guys. Here's what's most significant to me about Bam. We've not had a single post-game presser this year where he's had to say, I need to be more aggressive. Heat fans got so sick of hearing that last season. Like, we'd go through these games, we'd have 4, 5, 6 shots. I don't think we have a concern anymore. that he's going to go through a 2 or 3 game stretch where he's not aggressive. Like, I think that's over with. That, to me, if we're going to talk about why this is the biggest development for him, yes, it's finding a go-to move. Yes, it's the fact that his mid-range game has come back. Yes, it's the fact that he's playing undermanned, obviously without rebounders around him, and he's adjusted. Yes, it's the fact that he still anchors their defense. But to me, it's mindset. It's always been mindset. And the mindset is flipped. And when we talk about the positive aspect of Jimmy not playing as much this year, this is the only thing that I can really go to, okay? Because they're going to need Jimmy to play more than he's playing if they're going to carry this over the finish line. But the fact that Bam has had those moments where there's been nobody else but Tyler at times to carry him over, and these are supposedly the 2 linchpins into the future, is huge. The other thing that you said is this, and I don't want to make this a pick on Kyle pod because we kind of just did that, and they need Kyle to be better at some stage. But the fact that you're saying the 2 guys who got in the ball consistently are Tyler and Oladipo, when we talked about Kyle coming to the Heat, the thing we talked about was he's going to force Bam to be aggressive. It's actually been Oladipo and Herro who are doing that now, which also, to me, changes the late game equation. Because if you want Bam, you want to play through Bam in some of those situations. If Oladipo and Herro are doing that, Kyle's role, again, becomes reduced for me because he's not as necessary to do that if they're 2 guards that are going to be on the floor in those situations. Understand that. And we've also seen that Jimmy's been more willing to feed Bam over the past sort of month than he was before. I think that's trust and belief that's come from Jimmy watching Bam because we've talked about it. A lot of times Jimmy doesn't feed Bam. Okay. It's not a Mitchell Gobert situation, but the numbers were not what they should be. They've been better with both of them on the floor. All right. I'm going to let Brady go next. Before we do though, I want to mention another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Prize Picks, ton of signups over the weekend. Use that code 5, get your initial deposit matched up to $100. This is not rollovers. This is like free money, okay? $20, $30, $40, $50, up to $100. Whatever you put down, they will match it. And then they've got all kinds of great promotions. And, of course, you can play the NBA, NFL, NHL, and all of that together. College football playoffs over, but there's plenty on the board, including MMA as well. College football playoffs not over. I'm sorry. The semifinals are over. So you can play Georgia against TCU if you want coming up as well. So use that code 5, FIVE, get that initial deposit matched up to $100. I would not recommend playing Skylar Thompson this weekend, but we'll see how that goes. Again, you can download it from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or go to prizepicks.com. And our betting partner is Better Edge. Go to BETTOR-edge.com. Use the code 5RSN, play in our tournaments. But when you do that, use that code 5RSN, you get $20 to play right away, which is pretty cool. They're giving you free money also. And at Better Edge, it's peer-to-peer gambling, so you can find the line you want. It's not offshore. It's not illegal. It's legal in 45 states, including the state of Florida. So Prize Picks, use the code 5, FIVE. Better Edge, use the code 5RSN. All right, Brady, you're up.
Yeah, like Alex said before, I feel like all 3 of these you can make the case for, but just off of pure recency bias, I think it really is Victor Oladipo. That's probably would have been the first guy I went to, just because I feel like he changes the equation for this team in so many different ways. You mentioned earlier in this podcast where you said, use the word stale. We've used that a lot. We've talked about it being stale in a way. When Oladipo is playing like this, it doesn't feel stale. Like it feels new because we've seen Oladipo for very minor stints, specifically in the playoffs, but we haven't seen this Oladipo yet. We've seen the defensive games, but we haven't seen this type of offensive play in general. It's just the fact that he had 23 points in Utah and he follows it up with 15 in LA. And it's more so the way he's doing it, because I don't think we've seen this burst in a Heat uniform. Like these 2 games was the most burst I've seen off the dribble in terms of fast break opportunities in the half court, just getting to his right, because that's more so the direction he's going to do when he's trying to get to the rim. Can burst by these defenders and he can kind of find crevices to get to the lane. There was the play, obviously you mentioned the dunk earlier, the big time dunk over Walker Kessler, but it's not even the dunk. It's the fact that they're running actions for him and he's getting by that first line every time, where he's dunking on the helper, because that's just what's happening every time down. And the last thing I'll say is it's not even about what his individual play. It's more so the fact that they're finding ways for him to fit into the offense and with specific guys, because for so long last season, we kept talking about where was his fit going to be? Because a lot of times he's standing in the corner, he's a spot up, he doesn't really know the offense. He knows the offense right now. Like he looks like very comfortable in this offense. This is actually, I tweeted this earlier, and it's in the context of this entire podcast because we're talking about these three guys. But I mentioned the Heat are over the last 11 games, they're 8-3. Well, if Tyler and Bam are on the floor of these last 11 games, they've had a 115 offensive rating and a 106 defensive rating. When you add Dipo next to those two, they've had a 119 offensive rating and a 104 defensive rating. Like, this team has been very good when these three players are on the floor together. And we know the fit between Tyler and Bam. We know what the fit could be between Bam and Dipo just because of how good they can be defensively. But Dipo just fitting next to both of these guys just says a lot, I guess, of the ways they can utilize them. I said last night as well, we talked about having in the last pod, we talked a lot about they have three closers that are locked in, and it's just about the last two guys. I seriously believe they have four closers, and I think Oladipo is one of them just because of the things he can provide defensively. I'm watching him just jam up these different offensive players every night. Like, it's not the same type of players. There's primary ball handlers, there's shooters, there's attackers. He can move his feet in a way where he can just cut off guys. He can close out at a high level. Like, he does so many things on the defensive end where he's a defensive playmaker. Like, he had a possession where he missed a three, like he bricked a three. They go in the transition. It looks like the game could kind of turn around and go in Clippers' direction. He ends up cutting the guy off. He steals it. He throws it down to Gabe Vincent, who gets a wide open layup. And that kind of pushed momentum back in Miami's favor. Like, those are the things that we're seeing. So in terms of developments for this Heat team, if Dipo could kind of sustain this moving forward, it's hard not to pick him.
So wait, give me that rating again. Tyler, Bam, and Dipo, was it 119 offensive rating and what defensive rating?
And a 104 defensive rating, just over the last 11 games.
After your last 11 games. Okay, so basically outscoring by 15 points over 100 possessions. Alex, you've been the Dipo guy.
Look, man, what's going on with Victor Oladipo? I had like very small and little expectations, and I've said it before on this podcast, going into the season for what role he was going to play. Not because I thought anything less of Victor. I just think it was going to be tough for him coming back from injury, especially after the setback that he had early in season, where he kind of had to get him back in rhythm after they spent a lot of the summer hyping up the way that he was looking. And now we're seeing that, like, it's actually coming together the way. And I couldn't agree more with everything Brady was saying, especially with the burst stuff. Like, it's really jumping off the screen. I felt pretty good about his burst before. Like, I thought he was moving pretty well, but the past couple of games, like, it's really jumping off the screen. He looks very fast, and he also besides like his actual just running down the court speed, it's the way that he stops and starts as well. Like, that is what people do when they feel confident in their body again, right? Like, the constant stopping and starting and being able to decelerate, like, that stuff, that's huge, man. And I love the way that he is attacking the rim. His defense is it's been otherworldly. Like, for a player to come back from injury and within a couple of weeks look like, an all defense caliber player, somebody who's been going through injuries season after season. Like, I think it's incredibly impressive, right? And he looks like one of the best defenders on the team, along with Jimmy and Bam. I think Caleb has been up there, and all of a sudden, with him back, with Gabe back, who I know we're not talking about in this episode, I mentioned this on our Off the Floor feed about a week ago. I just think their defensive identity is looking more solid, and I think Victor is a huge part of that. He looks absolutely incredible on that. And offensively, like I said, you're seeing the burst, you're seeing all of that. The jump shot comes and goes. He's kind of got him going a little bit with that. He had a couple of that mid-range turnaround shot that he hit last night. Like, I think, that's not a bad counter either for when the rim is kind of fully covered. But then you talk about the on and off stats, and everything is very small sample so far. But when you put Victor on the floor with Tyler, with Bam and Jimmy, just to channel my inner Ethan here, with no Lowry on the floor, they're a plus 24 in net rating. And obviously it's only, I think, about 25 minutes so far, but they're absolutely killing it. Like, he's doing a great job, not only with the bench units, but playing with their best players. So it completely goes along with everything you guys are saying about him potentially being this next closer that they can use. And not that he has to be locked in, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if he became locked in, right, as a closer, if he just keeps playing at this rate. Now, obviously, the concern is offensively, if guys are just going to let him shoot, it's going to be more pressure on Jimmy and Bam if they had to see an extra body. But I don't know, man. I'm not necessarily too worried about that. I feel like in general, Vic has already proven his utility, and I feel like it could only get better from here if you're talking about offensively, right? So I feel very good about that. And, by the way, adding Lowry into those lineups, only 9 minutes, but the 5 of them together in those 9 minutes, net rating of 50.
That was the closing lineup last night.
Yeah, no, it was. Well, Alex, look, and Caleb has been getting less and less minutes, which is kind of how this has been playing out here. And I don't know that necessarily continues, but that has been the case of late. I don't want to be painted as a guy who says you can't play Kyle in these situations. I know I'm getting painted that way. What I'm saying is that Vic's ascent has made a lot of Vic's ascent, and the thing I'm going to talk about next with Tyler, have made Kyle less necessary in those situations. Where if he's not playing well, if he's not giving you anything, you don't need to play him. Before you needed to play him. Okay. Yep. Now you don't. I think that's the difference. It doesn't mean that Lowry's not going to have any impact for this team, but if you have rim pressure from Oladipo that you don't
get. And the playmaking, by the way, which I forgot to mention, the playmaking has been pretty nice.
Well, but that's partly with Tyler also. And so to me, that's where you're at. You're getting more rim pressure from Oladipo than from Lowry. You're getting better defense from Oladipo than from Lowry, right? The one thing where Kyle still has the advantage over Oladipo is I will trust Kyle more with a big, 3-point shot. But I think that some of that could be alleviated with Oladipo if he just takes 2 dribbles, gets in the paint, breaks it down, and creates something for somebody else. Like to me, it depends when he gets it in the shot clock. Like he's going to be left open in a lot of those situations from 3 because you'd rather have Oladipo doing that than doing other things, or rather have him doing that than, Bam, getting to his spot, or Jimmy in the post, or Tyler with a floater. Like if you're a defense, you're going to give Oladipo that. But Oladipo can counter that by, again, putting the ball, getting the ball into the paint and creating something easier for somebody else, which might lead to a foul or something like that. So I don't want to say they don't have any utility for Kyle, but I am of the mind right now that before we have said over and over, they need Kyle at the end of the games to get them into the offense, to get the ball to Bam. Well, we've already said here that Tyler and Oladipo are the ones that are getting the ball to Bam. Dipo is the one that's creating the rim pressure. Dipo's a better defender than Kyle. Right? You're running out of reasons to play Kyle Lowry late in games other than his experience when he's not playing well. When he's playing well, yes. When he's not playing well, I don't think that he's a guaranteed closer. And we got into that in the last episode. I do want to, one other thing on Oladipo. The front office, sometimes they spin things. Sometimes they spin things through me. Okay. And we try to make sense of it here on the podcast. We go over the numbers. We see what we think is right and what's not right. Obviously, they've earned a certain level of trust that other organizations in the NBA and other organizations in this town have not earned. So we tend to give them the benefit of the doubt. They were telling me all offseason how good Oladipo looks. Well, now you're seeing it. Okay. So that setback in training camp in the Bahamas was significant to this team over the first 25 games of the season. This is one place where Greg and I don't necessarily agree. They were counting on him to do this. This is what they were counting on. This was what was going to keep this team from being stale. It was Victor Oladipo playing at this level. It took us a while to see it. We're finally seeing it. And I think that matters. All right. We're going to get into the last guy here on the list, and I'm going to counter some narratives about me because I don't know. The Kyle stuff I understand. How I've gotten painted as the anti-Tyler Herro guy, I have absolutely no idea. Okay, based on my track record with the way I talk about him. But anyway, do want to tell you about another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, ODM Performance Solutions. It's odmpsi.com. Team building is hard. Just ask the Miami Dolphins. ODM PSI can help you build a winning team and keep it together. If you're looking to fill an important role at your company, ODM PSI can help you find C-suite level leadership, sales rainmakers, plus management and operational support staff. They might even help you find a backup quarterback, although I'm not sure about that. To find out more, check out odmpsi.com. That's odmpsi.com. They sponsor every post-game show here. We'll give you the performance solution of the game, or give them a call at 954-434-0634. It's a Miami-based company, 954-434-0634. All right. Here's what I want to say about the Tyler Herro debate. Okay. It's gone out of control as far as this perception of this tweet that I put out a couple times. I have never said that they are better when Tyler plays worse. Okay. Ever at any point. Okay. I picked the guy to win 6th man of the year last year. I've been against trading him. I'm a big fan of Tyler's game. Everybody who's followed my work knows that. What I've said, and I think this is echoed inside the organization, okay, is they are better at times, okay, when he is more of a playmaker than simply a scorer. And when he is looking to get others involved instead of just himself. And although the numbers are a little quirky because a lot of this has happened with Jimmy out or with Bam, not as much of a factor and whatever. And so Tyler has to take more of an offensive role. If you look overall at the numbers, he scores less in wins than he does in losses. Okay. However you want to take a look at the numbers. To me, what is so big about Tyler Herro's development over the past 3 weeks or so is not the last second shot in Utah, although it was great. We know Tyler's made for those moments. We know he wants those shots. We know he can make those shots. It's not the fact that he's been, a consistent scorer for them. We know he can do that. I like the other stuff. Okay. I think his off-ball defense has been better of late, but his playmaking is much better. There's no question about that. Okay. His rebounding has always been a plus for him as a guard. He's never gotten enough credit for that. But the playmaking, the pressure he's putting on the defense, the way that he's reading the defense, the way that he's finding guys. I just want to go through some of these per 36 numbers here and his per 100 possession numbers here, because I think they're instructive, okay, at this stage of the season. The first thing is his shooting trends are going the right direction. Last year, per 100 possessions, he averaged 16 2-point attempts and 10 3-point attempts. This year, he's averaging more 3-point attempts per 100 possessions than 2-point attempts. Okay, so that has flipped. Threes are worth more. We know that. He's going the right direction there, and he's shooting it at a 39.6% clip. So his volume has gone up. He's shooting the exact same 40%, if you round it up, that he did last season. But also the assists per 100 possessions are up from 6.1 to 6.4. The turnovers are down per 100 possessions from 4 to 3.6. So that's trending the right direction. His steal numbers are up per 100 possessions. His block numbers are up per 100 possessions. His rebound numbers are up from 7.7 per 100 possessions to 8.5 per 100 possessions. His free throw shooting is up from 87% to 92%, getting closer to where it was in college. And his 2-point percentage, the twos that he's making, is up from. He's better at every single thing than he was last season. And he's carrying it over whether Jimmy plays or Jimmy doesn't play, or Oladipo plays or Oladipo doesn't play, or they're featuring Bam or they're not featuring Bam. Tyler Herro, okay, so everybody can understand this, is playing at an all-star level, but he's also doing it in a way lately, okay, over the past 3 weeks. To my eyes, at least, the numbers bear this out, where it's contributing more to winning. Alex, is that fair?
It's definitely fair. Like, I just think everything Tyler has turned into, the way that he shifted, I think his offensive profile, where he is focusing more on the threes and is in general just getting them up a little bit more. And I think he's realized like how good of a shooter he is. I don't know what it is, or if it's Spo who told him to launch a little bit more this season, but I love it. Like, I really do think this is the stuff that you wanted to see from him. I think the playmaking has been steady. I've always felt like he's a pretty good playmaker for his position. And by the way, he's in the 100% percentile in his position in defensive rebounding this season, which, we've always known that he's a strong rebounder. But since you threw that in there, I thought that would be interesting. But just in general, man, I think what he's done is definitely contributing to winning. Like, they needed the extra playmaking. They absolutely needed the extra shooting. So that part has been so huge for them because they're not really getting it consistently from anybody else at the moment, even though Max and Duncan, I think, have been decent the past few weeks from that aspect. I just think the Tyler thing, it used to be a question of, well, is it somebody who everything he does offensively that he's good at, can you still close with it? And now I don't really think like that's a question anymore. I think you look at it and it's like, no, this guy is one of your 3 best players. He's doing it on a night-to-night basis. And I just think he really does fit like very well around the rest of their best players. I know I talked about that with Vic, but specifically with Tyler, like there's no question about any of these things. And I'm excited to see how he does in the playoffs, not to look too far ahead, because obviously that's what the season has been about for him. just other than, his development, everybody is kind of waiting to see how he performs in the playoffs after what happened last season. So I think everything that has happened with him, these developments are going to help him a lot. And just in general, I think all of this has been really positive because even though this Heat season in general has felt very up and down, very inconsistent, Tyler has been as consistent as they come. Bam has been as consistent as they come. And now you're starting to see it with Dipo as well. But I just think like with linchpins of your franchise, right? Just seeing a guy respond the way that Tyler has after the tumultuous postseason he had, it's really positive, man. I don't know what else to say other than Tyler is going in the right direction. And I don't know, man. I think this is one of the biggest positives this season. And now you talk about, Dipo, Bam, you talk about Orlando Robinson, who's not going to, that's not one of the biggest developments, but it's getting close, right? Like the fact that they're able to sub Bam out of the game and not get destroyed, like it feels like they're kind of coming together as a roster right now. The roster construction doesn't seem as bad now that you have Gabe and Dipo back with Orlando in the rotation. I feel pretty good about where they're at.
Brady, we got 1 minute left. So give me the biggest Tyler development.
Well, I think as a scorer, the biggest development is the fact all of his numbers are pretty similar this season compared to like December, compared to the rest of the season, all this stuff. The difference between this season, he's shooting 43% on pull-up threes and 35% on catch-and-shoot threes this season. Over the last 11 games, I keep going into that threshold because they're 8-3 and he's been available and they've been decent in December. He's shooting 44% of catch and shoot threes. Like the fact that they can move him off the ball in these certain trends that he's still able to hit, I feel like that changes things in general. But you hit on it, Ethan. I feel like the biggest thing, in my opinion, is not only the passing and the playmaking, but I think it's the way that he's playmaking. Because we can talk about the Herro Bam pick and roll. We always talk about that base thing that he just hits him in the pocket. But they've been running so many sets for him that he's been able to react. And they did it the other night where I think it was the Utah game. It was like the end of the first, second, and third quarter. They ran like the same exact set and they got the same exact thing they wanted basically out of every time. But Tyler's been doing a thing where not only is he playmaking at a high level, but he's taking that extra step and that extra dribble to kind of draw in and help defenders. I feel like by far his biggest development is like manipulating not only his defender, but the defenders on the outside, the helpers, the off-ball defenders. He's been doing that at a completely high level just because he has the ball in his hands so much and he can do it just by looking them off, taking that extra step, getting to the basket. And paint touches are crucial too. So he's been out there consistently. He deserves credit for that as well.
And we appreciate Brady being available because he's under the weather today. We'll post some of these 11-game stats on our Winnow feed. Check it out at Off the Floor. We posted up at the top of our Twitter handle. Thanks to our sponsors, Prize Picks, Better Edge, CRMstaffing.com, ODMPSI.com. I'll leave you with this. You got Jimmy back. You got Tyler playing at this level, Bam playing at this level, Dipo playing at this level. Imagine if they could just swing a trade for a power forward, huh? Where will this team be? We'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Five on the Floor on the Five Regional Sports Network.
Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.